All right, man. Shall we get into some hoops talk?
Yes.
Before we'll talk about our brackets here. We'll talk about who we picked, some of our maybe upset picks, Cinderella teams that we think could make a run here in the NCAA tournament. But you kind of brought up a good point earlier. And you kind of wanted to start this segment off talking about why you think March Madness is one of the best times of year. Now, of course, we work in football. This is Women Talking Football. So I think I can say safely for the both of us that football is probably our favorite sport.
Yeah.
Like football, the football time of year is the best time of year by far.
Yeah.
But NCAA tournament season is a real close second to that, I would say.
Oh, I mean, the thing that I think is so cool about March Madness is the buy-in that you get from everybody.
Yes.
I mean, absolutely any person that is a sports fan, and a lot of times I feel like people who are not sports fans are bought in to everything March Madness. I feel like it's the perfect length of time.
Uh-huh. Games aren't too long.
Games aren't too long. It's constant throughout the day. You can turn it on, put it in the background. But I think the thing that we were talking about earlier that makes it so great is, let's be honest, we can tie this back to football. We talk so much about the playoffs. Okay, this year, this upcoming football season, we are expanding it. We're going from 4 teams to 12 teams. That's what everybody wants. There's a lot more college basketball programs than there are football programs. I understand that. There is a numbers difference. This would be like comparing March Madness to the NBA. That does not make sense. There are 32 teams, But I think what is so fun about March Madness is the fact that it is one and done. I mean, there is no room for, can we get it to a game 7, which is different from almost every other tournament.
Right.
It's not just a certain number of teams. That's a very small swath of them, like in college football. Even with 12, that's a fairly small swath overall.
Right.
What I love about it is it just, the Matthew McConaughey thing where he's like, boo, 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 it doesn't exist, fairy dust. That's what I feel like when it gets to March. It does not matter. As long as you made it to the tournament, the discrepancy between the teams a lot of time just kind of poof. We just watched BYU lose.
Right.
To a 12 or 13 seed.
11, yeah.
And so it's just one of those things. I feel like anything can happen at any moment. And yes, there are the 4 teams in the men's bracket right now that are the number 1 seeds that everyone, you're going to say, yes, are they definitely better than the teams that played last night in the play-in games? By a long shot. But every single year that goes by, there is never a time where there's not some sort of upset. Right. And obviously, it's not always going to be the 16 seed over the 1 seed like we saw a couple years ago. Like, that was the first time that had ever happened. Right. So that's not the normal realm. But there are always upsets, and that's what makes it so stinking fun.
There's just so much more parity in college basketball, and it makes it so much more fun to watch because you can go into the NCAA tournament, and when you're making your bracket, you want to, most likely you're going to go with the higher seeded team. That's kind of always, that's a safe bet, right? Yep. But it's tough to pick those upsets because anything can happen. Right. When you look at the 4-team college football playoff, obviously the 1 plays the 4, right? Kind of the same as a 1 playing a 16. The best plays the worst of the bunch, right? Most of the time, the 1's going to win in football, right? If if you're in Alabama playing whoever the 4th team is, like that, they're going to win out because they're the best team. But like you said, a couple of years ago, it can absolutely happen. The 1 seed can lose in college basketball. And there's a lot of upsets all the time. That's what makes the tournament so much fun. And that's why it's really tough to have a perfect bracket because, again, so much parity in the sport. And I think that's why it is so fun this time of year because you just don't know what's going to happen. Because in football, you can kind of guess who's going to win, right? During the regular season when you always have the Power 4 team playing the G5 team, most likely the G5 team or the Power 4 team is going to win to beat that G5 team, right? But when for example, Michigan State's first basketball game this year, we played James Madison. James Madison took us out in overtime.
And y'all were the 4th ranked team.
We were the 4th ranked team. Exactly. And it was they played us really, really well. It's just easier in college basketball to have those upsets than in football. And to me, that makes it just so much more exciting and fun.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is just, and I mean, I keep going back to this, but it's just the truth. Think about when the NBA playoffs roll around, and I love the NBA playoffs, don't get me wrong, but if your team is advancing every single round, absolutely, you're locked in every single game, all of that. If your team doesn't make it or your team gets knocked out in the first round, let's be honest, most people ditch it and don't watch again until the finals.
Right.
Maybe the conference finals, you know. I just feel like it's so much longer of an extended portion of time. Baseball playoffs are the exact same way in the MLB. You know, by the time the Rangers played their first games all the way down to the World Series, it was like, I have been watching baseball forever, and I've only been watching in the postseason.
Right.
You know, and it just feels like it's so long. Here, I just love the fact that we can turn on a game between Creighton and who knows what. I know nothing about Creighton basketball right now, but I can watch it and instantly become invested. Right. Because it's like, you know.
And you're going for the upset.
And I just feel like being able to root for the upset for so many teams and all of that, it's to me the pinnacle of a sports tournament is what March Madness is. And anybody can fill out a bracket, and that's the other funny thing. Like, there's been multiple people like, oh, my grandma filled out this bracket, and guess what? It beat my bracket, and I watch basketball all the time.
Right.
And I just think it's a fun thing that really pulls everybody together. Tepper's been talking about his son Hank. Hank filled out his first bracket this year, and he is so excited. And when he wakes up in the morning, he wants to know what teams are playing, you know, and it's just, it's cool. It's a great way to get people interested, and it is genuinely, I think, one of the best times of the year by far.
Yeah, and I feel like I've met more people that are casual college basketball fans than any other sport. I mean, I feel like it's so easy to be a casual college basketball fan at this time, which makes it that much bigger of a fan base as a sport in total. And that gets everybody involved. Everybody's tweeting about their picks and their brackets, and it's a lot of fun. I don't remember who this was, but I saw on Twitter that somebody filled out their bracket based on how cute the mascots were.
Yeah,
and I was like, that one's going to beat mine for sure.
Yeah,
like, because I spent probably a good hour and a half filling mine out. So with that being said, shall we get right into it? We don't have to spend a long time on who we picked because we want a little bit of surprise in there, but we'll go ahead and start off with my bracket.
Okay.
Let me pull this up really quick.
Yeah, I was going to say I didn't even have mine pulled up.
Yeah, I actually have the scores pulled up right now. Yeah, so Duquesne, the 11 seed, beat BYU, a 6 seed, which we're also in a group, I guess a group with our coworkers. So pretty much everybody from the office is playing. And I don't think anybody picked Duquesne to beat BYU. North Carolina is up 40-26 on Wagner right now. Michigan State beat Mississippi State 69-51. Arizona up 62-41 over Long Beach. And then Creighton's up 75-60 over Akron. So pretty good on picks so far. I'll go right and say it. I picked UConn as my national champion. And I feel really good about that pick.
Yeah.
UConn is a team that feels, and you can argue this with the other 1 seeds too, but I feel like above all the other 1 seeds, they're the number 1 overall seed for a reason. They're just the most complete team.
Yeah.
They've got speed, they've got size, really lights out on both offense and defense. I feel like they're going to go back to back, I think. Which
that's the funny part for me. Like, I picked Houston. That shouldn't be much of a surprise.
Yeah.
My fiance works for Houston. I'm not going to not pick Houston.
Right.
So part of that was fandom. I also think Houston's the most complete team if they're up to full strength. There's the part that worries me. For UConn, it worries me because it's so hard to go back to back.
It's tough.
That's tough.
It hasn't happened since 2007, I believe.
Yeah, and so that's the part that makes me like, ooh, I don't know, man. It's hard to go back to back. The thing with Houston, I think that they could absolutely win it if they can stay healthy.
Yes.
If they can't stay healthy, it's going to be real hard.
Right. So you've got Houston. I have UConn. Who's in your Final Four?
My Final Four, I had Houston beating Purdue and UConn over Arizona. So I have UConn and Houston in the championship game, but I took the Cougs after that.
So I've got UConn beating Arizona in the Final Four, and then I have Purdue beating Kentucky on the other side of the bracket.
Okay.
And then I have UConn playing Purdue. And it's kind of one of those things with Houston, too. I've watched Purdue play a lot this year.
Right.
Very familiar with their style of play. Obviously, they've got the man in Zach Edey. They're not a reliable tournament team, as we've seen in the past. Shout out North Texas a couple years ago for being in the first round. Probably the best game I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, yeah. I thought I was...
Amazing.
I don't know how I didn't get a noise complaint that night.
I know, right? But they're not a super reliable tournament team. But I also feel like they haven't been as good as they've been this year. Now, they didn't win the Big Ten tournament. Illinois knocked them out.
Yeah, I watched that.
Illinois knocked them out.
No, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin knocked them out. That's right, because Wisconsin then played Illinois. Yeah. Okay. But I think if they're all healthy, if they remain healthy, I think they could make a deep run and make it to the championship. But I ultimately think that UConn is my favorite.
I think, and this might be Big 12 homer showing in me too, but I think Iowa State is a heck of a team, and I think that's someone that people are going to have to watch out for.
I think so too. What about, I guess now we can kind of go through some of your upset picks. Let's go first round. Give me like 2 of your picks that, I can go first if you want me to. 2 upset picks that you picked in the first round.
Well, I got one of them.
Okay.
I picked, and this was just me trying to one up people in the bracket if I possibly could. I've got Samford over Kansas. Kansas has been injury prone, and the other thing is too, I felt like that was a fairly safe upset pick because I do think that even if Kansas won, I don't think that they would beat Gonzaga. So I was like, okay, as long as Gonzaga wins. And then I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and pick this, and I'm going to try for an upset pick with Kansas.
Yeah, so I think the word right now is that Hunter Dickinson, their big man, is probably going to play, but Kevin McCullough is their top guy. I think he might be out. And without those 2 guys, that team is completely different. I mean,
so different.
Absolutely different, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So that's a really good pick. I would not be surprised if that happened.
Yeah, I'm going to be hyped if I was to get that one right.
Yeah. Let me see. What other upset pick did I have? I really liked, and we talked a little bit about this on TFT. I really like number 11 seed New Mexico over 6 seed Clemson. Now, New Mexico, to pick these upsets, I read that, and I like to read all these little tips and tricks, because it's supposedly going to make me better.
And then you're just going to get it wrong.
And then I'm just going to get it more upset, But it's really safe to go with conference tournament winners, not the regular season, conference tournament winners, because right now March Madness is all about getting hot. It's all about getting hot at the right time and how many games you can win in a row, right? New Mexico's getting hot right now. They won the WAC tournament, and they're on a 4 or 5 game winning streak right now. And I
thought Grand Canyon won the WAC.
What is New Mexico? No, you're right. New Mexico's in the Mountain West. I'm sorry. Grand Canyon's in the WAC.
Yeah.
New Mexico is in the Mountain
West.
So they did win the Mountain West. Yeah, and they've got a
a
couple of good wins too. I think they have a win over Arizona this year or something like. Maybe not Arizona. They got a good couple of quad 1 wins in there. And Clemson's just also one of those teams that they just haven't looked very good this year in ACC play, which the ACC isn't really that.
Nah.
They weren't that great at basketball this year, so that worries me.
The only other one that I picked that I didn't actually pick, but if I had to give you another upset watch to be on, I think NC State over Tech could be a possibility.
Yeah.
You want to talk about getting hot at the right time? NC State won 5 games in the tournament.
Yeah.
They won 5 games to go win their conference, and it's like, that's insane. So I don't know, and Tech got bounced pretty early, so it could be one of 2 things. NC State might be winded because they've played so much in the past week, and Tech got quite a bit of rest, or Tech's going to come out sluggish, which under Grant McCasland probably won't happen.
Right.
But if I had to choose one other one that I would say put on upset watch, NC State over Tech.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because NC State is the team that whipped Clemson in the ACC tournament.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's Clemson shaky, so I would go New Mexico over that. I had another upset pick. I liked Oregon a lot over South Carolina. Oregon's the team. They won the Pac-12. They had a really good win over Arizona earlier on in the season. They look really, really stout right now. I don't think South Carolina has looked super.
Not on the men's side, no.
No, not yeah. Well, we can talk about that. But yeah, they rattled off like 4 straight wins heading into the tournament. They just look really Oregon looks really good right now. So that's my other one. This is another one. I didn't pick them, but I really like this James Madison team.
Yeah.
They have a
You're still scarred from week 1.
I am. They played us really well.
Your Sparty is showing.
No, but they've got a matchup with Wisconsin, which Wisconsin's been they've had a Jacqueline Hyde kind of season, really hot and cold in the Big Ten. They fell short to, of course, Illinois in the Big Ten tournament this year. But James Madison's looked really good. They have 3 losses on the year.
Mm-hmm.
They
good.
won. Right. I believe they were the winner in Conference USA. I could be wrong about that. But they've rattled off a couple of really good straight wins here, too. So I wouldn't be surprised if James Madison gives Wisconsin a run for their money. I still picked Wisconsin because I think that just the level of play and the teams that they have both come across this year, Wisconsin obviously has the upper hand in that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. What else has really stood out to me? Give me a team that you think could go pretty far. Maybe not make it to the Final Four, but like maybe a team that...
I think Iowa State. I really,
Iowa State?
yeah, I
okay.
really think Iowa State can do that.
Okay.
If you wanted something a little bit more off the beaten path,
I went with Creighton on mine. They're a 3 seed, so
yeah, I have Creighton going almost all the way until they get to Purdue.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's exactly. So, so we talked about that. I picked Creighton over Tennessee, which might come back and bite me in the butt there. But that Tennessee tournament loss by Mississippi State, I believe they absolutely whipped Tennessee. That scared me a little bit. They looked super vulnerable there. And Creighton's looked pretty solid. I mean, they're a pretty solid team all around. They don't really have ups and downs. They've just looked really good. I think that they definitely have the pedigree to make it pretty far, maybe to the Elite 8. But I would say mine is definitely Creighton. I'm going to pick them.
All right.
To go kind of far. So
there you go. Chief bracketologist Mallory Hartley.
Well, sort of.
Reporting for duty.
Totally. Yeah, there's our men's bracket. We can kind of glaze over our women's bracket if we want, because we both... Did you make your women's bracket?
Mm-hmm.
You did? Okay. Let me pull mine up here. I did not have it up.
I mean, here... to hit the women's bracket quickly, I mean, I would be shocked if South Carolina and Iowa were not there again. I really would. Obviously, I think LSU has fallen off a little bit. You know what would be awesome is seeing Vic Schaefer's Texas Longhorns make a run. I mean, they're the number 1 seed down there in the lower quadrant of the bracket. I don't know which one it says. Portland 4.
Regional 4. That's what it says. Maybe the West.
Yeah. I don't think we're West, but yeah. Anyway, I would be shocked not to see South Carolina in Iowa.
I had South Carolina, Notre Dame, Iowa, and LSU in my Final Four, which seems pretty solid.
Yeah.
I had South Carolina and LSU in my championship. Because the thing about, I think we're inevitably going to see an LSU-Iowa matchup, I think, on that right side of the bracket in the Final Four. It's just one of those things. It's like, do you go with the team that has the girl, right? Has the all-star player in Caitlin Clark? Or do you go with an LSU team that has multiple different weapons on multiple areas of the court? You know, it's just kind of one of those things. Can Caitlin Clark can she go off like she has been, drop 40 points, pull up from the logo 8 times a game, and completely take down this complete LSU team?
Yeah.
But I think South Carolina is going to beat any one of those teams, though, no matter what. I think they're just too solid.
I think South Carolina is the most complete team.
I think so, too.
But I can never count out Caitlin Clark. And I think the thing that sealed the deal for me on that front was her senior night, when she knew for a fact that was the last time. And, I mean, she just popped off. We can talk as much as we want about generational talents, and I know I'm not preaching anything new here, but I mean, she truly is a generational talent, and I think the thing that separates her and makes her really skyrocket into that upper echelon of being one of the most elite basketball players that we've seen is the fact that when the big stage is there, when the big lights come on, that's literally when she plays her best basketball. And that's crazy because she plays her best basketball all the time.
Right.
She doesn't have a bad game,
no,
to anybody's standards. To her standards, she might have a bad game, but she doesn't have a bad game, yet she continues to just get better the bigger the stage.
Right.
And it's like, you want to talk about something that...
You want to talk about what March Madness embodies?
Now, that's the biggest thing. If Iowa can get past LSU in the Final Four, I think that the South Carolina-Iowa game in the championship would be incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible.
I agree.
Dawn Stanley is the GOAT.
Yes.
I mean, she's incredible. Her whole team, it's,
I think so too. I would love to see that. We'd have to have a watch party for that because I myself am a Caitlin Clark gal. Definitely want to see her play at some point in the WNBA when they come and play whoever she gets, probably the Indiana Fever, which is kind of what it's looking like for number one lock.
There.
Yeah. They're coming to play the Dallas Wings
Yeah.
in, I believe, July.
Yeah.
Ish and I looked that up when we were at the UNT game the other day, but we definitely need to buy our tickets for that game because seeing her in person is something on my bucket list, and it has been for the past 2 years. So definitely rooting for her.
Speaking from experience, it's incredible.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
you've seen her in person too. Yeah,
I saw her in
last
the
year at the Final
championship
Four.
game. Yep.
That's right. Yeah, I'm jealous of that.
Well, I saw her.
Really
the semifinal
awesome.
game was even more fun than the championship game.
Because they lost in the championship game.
Yeah, the semifinal game where she popped off was one of the coolest basketball experiences that I've ever. I felt like a little kid.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm getting paid to do this. This should be illegal because I'm having too much fun.
Exactly. And then in the NIT bracket, I did not make an NIT bracket, but I can tell you who's going to win. We're going back to back, baby.
Go Mean Green.
North Texas Mean Green had a dominant win over LSU in the first round 2 nights ago. We were watching that while we were cricketing and making our pickleball t-shirts. But really dominant showing by the Mean Green. Yeah, dominant showing by the Mean Green. I'm picking them to go back to back as NIT champions.
Let's go.
So,
and the women are in the women are in the
NIT as well. I think they play tonight. And I think they played their first round tonight, I believe. Yes, I'm almost positive. Down there in Fort Worth. Or I guess over there in down and over in Fort Worth, I guess.
Down and over. Directions.
Directions are tough. But yeah, a little bit of March Madness talk in honor of the first official day of the NCAA tournament. So I feel really good about my bracket. My men's and women's bracket.
Good.
I always do on the first day. Do have one loss, but that's okay. That's all right.
You started off with a Sparty win, so you're riding high
really
for the rest of the
good.
time.
I'm riding high. I feel good. Doesn't matter what we do.
North Carolina up next.
Doesn't matter what we do from here on out. Just wanted to get past the first round and silence all the haters for saying, Michigan State doesn't deserve to be in the tournament. They got 19 losses or whatever around the year. And I'm like,
she's fine. Yeah, she's doing great, if you can't tell.
I'm like, bro, don't count out Izzo and March, okay? That's why we got in. So